Welcome. I am Mr. Clock, the creator of the Arma 3 Object Builder add-on for Blender. In this video, I would like to talk about the hit point cloud generation tool. A quick note before we begin. An earlier version of this video was released back in November, but since the add-on was updated to 2.5.0 version, which changed the hit point cloud tools, so I decided it's best to remake this video to reflect the changes because some aspects have changed in a way that's actually important. When creating vehicles and destructible structures, we need to create hit points for the damaged models to actually function properly. Doing this with more complex geometries can be really slow and tedious, as there isn't really an optimized way of doing this currently in the Object Builder application. So the hit point cloud generation tools were added to the add-on. For this demonstration example, I took an older tank asset I made and took the fire geometry model, and this is what we are going to base our hit point cloud on. So I went ahead and took the fire geometry and separated out the little internal components we have. So this would be, for example, like the hull selection, fuel tank, engine, the turret rotating mechanism, the turret itself, and then the barrel of the tank. So for this demonstration I will just create the hit points, for example, for the hit hull. The way to do this is to open up the hit point cloud tool and then set the source object to the component we want to base it off on, and then set our spacing of the point grid. Now this spacing should correlate to the settings in config for the spheres in our hit points definitions. So in this case I will, for example, set 10 centimeter spacing for the grid, and I will also add this immediately to the hit hull selection. So when I hit generate, what will happen is that the add-on will first uh, generate a continuous 3D grid in the bounding box of the selected component, and then it will try to filter out every point that is outside this shape. So a couple of notes about this process. This process will only reliably work if you have a shape, or well, an actual geometry component is actually closed and the face normals are oriented consistently, so the object is not inverted, some faces are not inverted, so the entire object should be evenly, well, consistently shaded. And the second thing is that due to the limitations of the algorithm used for this filtering process, if an object has very sharp angles, the process tends to create false positives for certain points, which means that some points that are clearly outside the shape are not actually filtered out. To mitigate this issue, the add-on temporarily assigns a bevel modifier to the object, which it later removes to get rid of the sharp angles, and this should remove all the false positives. The bevel is applied with a single segment with a 1 mm offset, which is very, very small, so it should not create any false positives or negatives in any cases. But if it does, you will clearly see some points outside the model, mainly along the edges. If you want to know more about this caveat of the algorithm, you can check out the GitHub repository with where I put up some documentation for myself and the public to see. So let's go ahead and hit generate, and this will create a new point cloud object. It's called point cloud, and we can see that it generated new points. So if we go to wireframe mode, we can actually see the points, and you can see that the points nicely follow the shape of the component we have. Now the object that is created with the point cloud will be always oriented the same way as the source object. So if we rotate this object and hit generate. Actually, let's go ahead and delete this one and generate. We can see that it's oriented with the same thing with the local coordinate system. Now the next thing is that you can actually set a target object. So for example, we already have an object with the point cloud here. And if you don't want to always just delete and recreate it, we can set up a target object. Just select this one and just click on generate. And actually we can do this to change the spacing. So let's say that I realized that 10 centimeters was too generous, too crowded. So I just set it to 20 centimeters and hit generate again. And this will realign the point cloud object with our source component object, and also recalculate the grid and refilter the points outside. And we can also see that it created a proper selection, which we can verify in edit mode that it actually works. And then we can use this process to create the selections for all the other components. So I will just go ahead and do one more for the turret, and I will set this to hit turret, and the spacing should be fine in 20 centimeters here as well. I will click generate, and this will generate our hit points, which we can later combine into a single object, for example, and use as the hit point cloud LOD. This is all I wanted to showcase from the hit point cloud generator tools. If you run into any issues or have suggestions for the tool, you can post them on GitHub. Thank you.